The new emperor abandoned me to marry his white moonlight, his first love. Since then, my whole family has decided to just slack off. The border is under attack. My dad says the city security is bad and his old gout is acting up, so he can't get out of bed. The city's security is just too bad. My brother says he's on annual leave. Do not disturb. The Ministry of Revenue is broke. My mom says, we're poor, no loans available. Who do you think you are? I have plenty of other people, the emperor said. Fine then, we'll keep slacking off. The new emperor sent the White Moonlight's eldest brother to face the enemy. He almost got killed. The emperor sent the White Moonlight's second brother to solve a case. He was scared witless within 3 days. The White Moonlight's mother, trying to show off for her daughter, spent every cent of her life savings. Jo. Ha. Slacking off feels so good. The day before Qin Bai's coronation, his first love came back. The next day, without a word, right in front of all the officials, he crowned Chu Ying as Empress. He took our Yun family's dignity and dragged it through the dirt. Mom, are we still going to the palace? I asked with a yawn. Before dawn this morning, she dragged me up to do my hair and makeup. We sat in the main hall waiting early, saying we couldn't lose face. Who knew that after waiting all morning, this is the news we'd get? Go in for what? He dares to burn bridges with me? If I don't make them pay dearly. My name isn't Luo Yunjin. Madam Empress Dowager Chun is here. She's waiting outside right now. Should I let her in? Empress Dowager Chen's name is Chan Xian. She's my mother's best friend from childhood. My engagement to Qin Bai was settled by the two of them during a happy chat. She is the Empress Dowager. I'm just a mere general's wife. How would I dare stop her from entering? Hurry and come out with me to greet her. My mother sneered and stood up from the head seat. Before she could take 2 steps, the Empress Dowager, leading a train of maids and eunuchs, walked in through the door. Sister, those words are too formal. We grew up together. Our bond is much closer than others. The Empress Dowager entered with a smile and took my mother's hand. I wouldn't dare call myself your sister. Please take the seat of honor, Your Majesty. My mother pulled her hand back. She knelt down to pay her respects. I followed suit and bowed. Seeing this, the Empress Dowager sighed helplessly and sat down. Bai truly did wrong this time. He didn't give the Yun family any notice. Before granting the title on his own, the Empress Dowager sat up straight and tried to soothe us. With one sentence, she blocked the interrogation my mother was about to launch, since it's already done. How does Your Majesty intend to resolve this? My mother looked at her and asked. Crowning an empress is no small matter. It has already been proclaimed to the world. It cannot be changed. Qinger will just have to settle for being noble consort. The die was cast. They were forcing us to accept it. Sister, don't make it sound so unpleasant. Little Bai's heart belongs to another. He was headstrong. I didn't expect it either. Since it's a reality now, please be more understanding. Isn't it better to be a harmonious family? Why ruin the peace? Sigh. Humph family. What kind of trash is that Chu family? It's impossible for me to let my daughter suffer just to make you happy. My mother completely lost her temper. She shouted, Luo Yunjin. Don't think that just because I call you sister, that you can forget your place. The world belongs to my son now. My presence here today is already giving you enough face. I advise you to accept the position of noble consort quietly. Yun Qing was engaged to Bai long ago. If this engagement is broken, I'd like to see who in this world would dare marry her. Then Your Majesty needn't worry. I, Luo Yunjin, may have no other skills, but I know how to make money. Even if Qing never marries, I can afford to support her for life. My mother refused to back down.
Fine, Luo Yunjin.
Bai was able to take the throne, partly because your family put in a lot of effort. But don't think we can't survive without you. You chose this path yourselves. Don't come crawling back to beg me when you regret it. Empress Dowager Chun said sternly. She flicked her sleeves and left. Noble consort? Sounds nice. But it's just a concubine. Thinking my daughter would do that is a pipe dream. After the Empress Dowager left, my mother told me to go back and rest. By the time I had slept my fill, it was almost dark. I went to the main hall for dinner, and was surprised to find both my father and eldest brother there. Dad, you're supposed to head back to the border tomorrow. Didn't you say you were meeting friends tonight? Why are you back? Brother, the court of state ceremonies has been flooded with cases. Haven't you been living there for half a month? Why are you back too? I asked in surprise. My gout is acting up, so I'm not going back to the border. I'll stay home and spend more time with Qing, okay? My father looked at me lovingly and smiled. I was naturally happy, and nodded repeatedly. I've been at the court for 5 years. I haven't taken a single day off. I'm tired now. I want to stay home and rest for a few days, my brother said with a serious expression. Ever since he started judging cases, he has become increasingly stern. It's rare to see him happy even at home. With a personality like his, I wonder if he'll ever find me a sister-in-law. Enough nonsense. It's rare for the whole family to be together. Sit down and eat. My mother spoke up. We all quickly took our seats. Before long, my bowl was piled high with food. This fish is good. Eat this and this too. My father hadn't even touched his own food. He kept putting my favorite dishes into my bowl. Even my brother, whose emotions were hard to read, picked up a piece of celery, which I hate, and put it in my bowl, looking at the heartache hidden behind my mother's calm eyes. How could I not understand what they were thinking? I was betrothed to Qin Bai at age 8. It has been 7 years since then. Every Lantern Festival, Dragon Boat Festival, and Mid-Autumn Festival, we would spend them together. I watched him go from a handsome youth to the young emperor he is today. It's impossible to say there was no affection. I was always told by everyone around me that he was my future husband, the person I would spend my life with. But it was this very person who, without a single word of warning, betrayed me. Since my parents and brother didn't mention it, I didn't want to bring it up either. I wouldn't let Qin Bai ruin my mood. I happily accompanied my family and finished this reunion dinner. But unexpectedly, a eunuch came the next day with a decree saying Qin Bai wanted to see me. Your humble servant Yun Qing greets your majesty. Long live the emperor. Qing, you may rise. There is no need for such formality. Just as my knees touched the ground, Qin Bai rose from the throne. He hurried over to help me up. Once I was standing, I quietly pulled my arm back and took 2 steps away. Qing, do you blame me in your heart? Qin Bai asked. I wouldn't dare. Your Majesty is the Son of Heaven. You are above all others. Naturally, you may marry whomever you wish, I replied with downcast eyes. Qin Bai sighed helplessly. Just as he was about to say something, a eunuch at the door announced that Chu Ying had arrived. What is she doing here? Qin Bai asked urgently. He then hurried toward the door. He was almost at a trot by the end. Your body is weak. If you wanted to see me, just send a servant. I would have come to see you. Why make the trip yourself? Qin Bai's voice full of heartache drifted back. I turned and saw Chu Ying in a red phoenix robe, leaning weakly in his arms. Your Majesty has 1,000 things to do. How could Ying dare disturb you? At breakfast today, Your Majesty ate in such a hurry. And you were so tired last night. I was worried about your health. So I went to the kitchen to make some pastries myself. Chu Ying said softly. Her tone was so tender and lingering that even I, a woman, found her pitiable. The two of them flirted at the door for quite a while, before they noticed me again. Isn't this Sister Yun? What time did you arrive? Your Majesty, why didn't you tell me? Chu Ying gave Qin Bai a playful, reproachful nudge. Qin Bai caught her hand. He let out a joyful laugh. He led her over to me. This is Ying, the daughter of the Minister of Rights. And now she is my Empress. Ha ha ha. I didn't respond. I gave Qin Bai a cold, indifferent look. His expression immediately turned awkward. Your Majesty, are you saying this because you want me to bow to the Empress? No. He didn't dare look me in the eye. I glanced at Chu Ying beside him. The smile on her face instantly froze. His Majesty is right. Sister Yun's status is so much higher than mine. How could she possibly bow to me? Chu Ying forced a smile and looked at me again. We met a few times when we were younger. Sister, do you still remember Ying? Qinger, so you and Ying actually know each other? Qin Bai looked at me with slight surprise. Your Majesty's status is noble. I wouldn't dare claim such a connection. I replied distantly. My father was the first-rank general of the realm, specially titled by the late emperor. Her father was merely a fifth-rank chief secretary. It was only by riding his daughter's coattails after she became empress that he was promoted to a third-rank minister. Based on our family backgrounds, our paths should never have crossed. But her mother and mine both ran businesses in the capital. Because her mother's ancestral home was in the capital, and her family had accumulated wealth over generations, my mother, despite her power, couldn't easily displace the local influence. The two were evenly matched in their ability to make money. They often had minor friction due to competition between their shops. I met Chu Ying a few times as a child. Every time was when our mothers were at each other's throats. She never gave me a kind look. And I didn't care to acknowledge her either. I never thought that after all these years, I'd actually receive a warm welcome from her in the palace. Sister, what are you saying? Chu Ying acted as if she didn't see my cold expression. She stepped closer and grabbed my arm. I don't like being touched by others. Just as I was about to pull my hand away, Chu Ying's body swayed and she collapsed to the ground. I know our mothers didn't get along, and that you don't like me either, sister. But Ying is the Empress now. I'm no longer that daughter of a low-ranking official you used to bully. Sister, how could you still dare to push me? Is she losing her mind as she gets older? When did I ever push her? Even if I took the position of Empress from you, I'm sorry, sister. But that was His Majesty's decree. Are you dissatisfied with His Majesty's decision? Chu Ying clutched her chest. She accused me with a pitiful, aggrieved look. Qin Bai knelt down, his face full of heartache. Yun Qing, I must have been blind. Yesterday, the Queen Mother returned to the palace to cancel the engagement. I didn't agree, out of consideration for our past feelings. I thought you were gentle and well-mannered. I was planning to follow the example of past emperors and appoint 2 empresses, east and west. You would both be equally noble. You wouldn't have to be subordinate to Ying. I didn't expect you to be such a wicked woman. I really was blind. Qin Bai pointed at me and cursed, looking at his finger pointed at my nose. I almost almost couldn't stop myself from swearing. The first half of his sentence was actually right. How did I not notice how blind he was before? Such an obvious fake fall, and he couldn't even see through it right under his nose. Can he even keep his throne? 2 empresses? He certainly has a lot of nerve. I did not push her. If your majesty doesn't believe me, then let's just cancel the engagement. Qin Bai stared at me, his chest heaving. Just as he was about to say something, a eunuch rushed in from outside. He leaned in and whispered something in his ear. After a long moment, he looked up at me. He pointed toward the door. Get out. Get out of my sight. I left without looking back. When I reached the palace gates, I found my parents and my older brother, all standing by the carriage, on the carriage ride home. My mother hesitated to speak. I patted her hand. Mom, it's fine. Anything that can be stolen is just trash anyway. After I said that, my mother breathed a complete sigh of relief. The day after I returned home from the palace, Qin Bai issued the decree to cancel the engagement. He branded me with a reputation for being jealous and unvirtuous. He might as well have called me a shrew. Afterward, noble ladies frequently sent invitations to my house, asking me to attend their banquets. I knew how intense the gossip-mongering of those bored ladies could be. Even if I wasn't bothered by it, I didn't want to go out and be their entertainment. I had my mother decline all of them. It happened to be my grandmother's 80th birthday soon, so I stayed secluded at home. I didn't step out for half a month. I embroidered 100 longevity scroll for her. I thought the matter would fade with time, but it only intensified. I was the victim of the broken engagement. But in the rumors among the commoners, Qin Bai and Chu Ying were being portrayed as childhood sweethearts, whose tragic love was kept apart. I became the third party, who used her father's power to force a marriage. They truly turned black into white. Madam, the Empress has sent an invitation. She invites you and the young lady to the palace tomorrow, to attend the 100 Flowers banquet. During lunch, the butler came in with a troubled look. If it were an invitation from an ordinary family, my mother could use my father's rank as an excuse to decline. But it's hard to avoid an invitation from the palace. I could guess Chu Ying's purpose for suddenly holding a banquet. My father had feigned illness to avoid going to the border. 3 days later, Chu Ying's eldest brother, Chu Feng, was appointed general of the cavalry. He took my father's place on the front lines. Chu Ying's second brother, Chu Jia, also took over my brother's position the day before, becoming the vice minister of the Court of Judicial Review. She would stir up trouble for me even over nothing. Now that she has such a perfect chance to mock me, how could she miss it? Maybe I should pretend to be sick? My father stayed home and made me all sorts of delicious food. My brother also, from time to time, had the eccentric acquaintances he knew bring me interesting trinkets. I was quite happy at home. Only my mother still had to go out every day for the shops. It didn't matter to me if I went to the palace or not, but I didn't want my mother to be looked down upon because of me. The thought of her entering the palace, only to be suppressed by Chu Ying's mother, by Shinro, made me feel uneasy. Pretend to be sick? No. I was just worrying about having no place to vent the anger from your last grievance. Who knew she'd be so blind as to walk right into it herself? Your maternal grandfather is the teacher of almost every official above the third rank in court. Your grandmother is the daughter of the richest man in Jiangnan. Your father holds command over an army of 800,000. And my shops are spread across the entire country. Aside from being slightly suppressed by Shinro in the capital, where else would we not crush them to dust? If Chen Xian and Qin Bai dare to let that Chu girl bully you, I won't make things easy for them either. My mother slammed the table and stood up. It seemed she had been holding back her anger for a long time. My lady, don't be angry, don't be angry. My father quickly stood up to rub my mother's back. Mom, there's no need to be so furious. The Chu family will soon bring about their own destruction. Qing, you must not pretend to be sick tomorrow. You must attend this 100 flowers banquet. Otherwise, you'd truly be missing out on a chance to see a good joke. You'd truly be missing out on a chance to see a good joke. My brother said cryptically. He rarely smiles. At this moment, the faint, imperceptible smile of satisfaction on his lips made me feel a bit uneasy. My brother's words never failed to come true. The next day, I entered the palace with my mother. The 100 flowers banquet. My mother and I arrived late. By the time we got there, the families of officials above the third rank, who were in the capital, had mostly arrived. When we first entered, my mother and I were met with looks of mockery or pity. But as we drew closer, and they saw the clothes and jewelry my mother and I were wearing, their eyes were filled only with jealousy and envy. Thank you for leading the way, eunuch. Here is the reward. My mother casually tossed out a South Sea pearl. The young eunuch leading us scrambled to catch it. He knelt and bowed in thanks. After performing the rites, he didn't leave. He followed behind my mother and me. He clearly wanted to stay and serve us. It wasn't just him. The other eunuchs and maids in the imperial garden also had a look of eagerness in their eyes. It made the people around us turn red with envy. I see they just have some stinking money. What's there to show off? I glanced at the woman who said that. She was the wife of the Minister of Revenue. She was usually quite close to Chu Ying's mother by Shinro. If you're so capable, why don't you give a reward too? Usually so stingy. You can't even bring yourself to tip a gold coin. Where do you get the nerve to shout in front of me? My mother gave her a disdainful roll of the eyes. You, a mere wife of a third-rank minister, is hardly fit to make a scene in front of me. You dare not bow before me? You have no respect for hierarchy at all. Do you intend to disregard the law? The Minister of Revenue's wife was so livid her mouth twitched. She pointed at my mother, trying to say something, but the words got stuck in her throat. All right. The weather is so lovely today. It's not worth getting angry over such trifles. A voice as soft as a breeze drifted over. Without even looking up, I knew it was by Shinro. She wants to play the peacemaker, but she'll have to see if my mother agrees. As they say, birds of a feather flock together, and so do dogs. I really shouldn't get angry at animals. What did you say? Bai Shinro's expression instantly soured. Nothing. I just love it when people can't stand me, yet can't do anything about it. My mother adjusted the ruby on her head and led me toward the banquet, without giving them a single glance. Pa! Just a couple of people holding empty titles, a family of useless nobodies. Let's see how long you can stay so smug. Before the banquet began, the Minister of Revenue's wife, sitting 2 or 3 seats behind my mother, spat out those words. She shouldn't have been eligible to sit there. But because of her connection to Bai Shinro, Chu Ying had her seat moved up. Where's that barking coming from? My mother remarked casually, without even turning her head. This made the minister's wife so angry. She nearly flipped the table. Seeing this, I felt completely at ease. I sat by my mother, watching the maid serve the dishes, and secretly gave her a thumbs up. I was being shallow. To think I actually wanted to help her out. Soon the music started, and the banquet began. Everyone around was flattering Chu Ying and her mother, praising how capable her elder brothers were. They subtly belittled our family in their conversation, just to elevate the Chu family. The way they talked, Chu Ying and her mother were so delighted they were practically floating. My mother and I ignored everything around us, focusing solely on the food in front of us. Mom, these shrimp aren't as good as the ones Dad makes. I agree. My mother nodded in agreement. Just as we were having a lively discussion, we were suddenly interrupted by a voice. Inching. Why haven't your father and brother left the house in 10 days? Could it be that something's wrong? Watch your mouth. I turned around and glanced at the speaker. It was Chu Ying's friend, Bai Rong. What? I have a mouth, am I not allowed to speak? Can your mother only rely on her sharp tongue to act all high and mighty? It's all over the capital. Your father's gout flared up and triggered an old injury. He doesn't have much longer to live. And your elder brother, only a few days after the evil spirit murder case appeared, he shut himself away at home. A few people from the Court of Judicial Review let it slip, spreading the news that your brother was scared witless by that evil spirit and used an excuse to return home. Who knows where his soul has wandered off to now? Bai Rong spoke louder and louder, eventually laughing with malicious glee. Her words drew the attention of those around us. Many who disliked our family joined in with a few mocking remarks, especially the Minister of Revenue's wife, who laughed the hardest. After speaking, Bai Rong walked over to Chu Ying's side. Defending the country abroad is the mark of a true hero. Your Highness, your second brother took charge of the court and showed great courage, solving the evil spirit case for the people. Truly admirable. Compared to the Yun family's nest of old, weak, and foolish, he is infinitely better. Ha ha ha, Ronger, you're being too harsh.
Chu Ying scolded Bai Rong.
But the look in her eyes and the way she accepted the wine suggested otherwise. The officials' families nearby, sensing her intent, all began to criticize my family's faults. My mother listened in silence, taking note of everyone who spoke ill of my father and brother, committing them to memory. Bai Xinro stepped forward at the right moment, walking to my mother's side. She always acted like a saint in front of others, and this was the perfect excuse to put on an act. Sister Luo, we fought for so many years. I always wanted to win, but I never expected your family to fall into such a tragic state. It's truly pitiable. I've come to respect you as a rival. I wish I could suffer in your place. Bai Xinro took out a handkerchief and dabbed at the non-existent tears in her eyes, comforting my mother. Do you really want to suffer in my place? My mother asked meaningfully. I want to, but the heavens won't allow it. The heavens have eyes. They know who is good and who is bad. The wicked will always get their retribution. Your husband doesn't have long to live, and your son has gone mad. Don't you think this is karma? Bai Xinro used her handkerchief to hide the uncontrollable curl of her lips. Looking at my mother, she saw that my mother was smiling too. I also believe the heavens have eyes. When I get back tonight, I shall give them a proper offering. The smile on Bai Xinro's face froze. She looked at my mother in disbelief. You haven't actually gone mad, have you? As soon as she said that, many of the officials' families gathered around. It's not me who's going mad. My mother's lips curled slightly. Just as my mother finished speaking, a eunuch rushed in, panicked and breathless. Your Highness, quick! Summon the imperial physicians. General Chu Feng has collapsed outside the city, unconscious. He was just carried into the palace by the city guards. Before he could finish, a servant came running in behind him. Madam, please come home quickly. Young Master Chu Jia fainted while handling a case. After waking up, he calls everyone daddy. The master is nearly dying of rage. Ah, what did you say? Bai Xinro walked toward them in disbelief. General Chu is severely injured. He was just brought to the palace gates. He needs a physician immediately, otherwise his life is in danger. Madam, the second young master. He seems to have been scared out of his wits. Shut up. Before the servant could finish, Bai Xinro slapped him. She didn't hold back. The servant's face immediately swelled up. Spreading such rumors. Where is the Chu family's upbringing? Bai Xinro pointed at the servant and cursed. This lowly one doesn't know how to speak. I deserve to die. Madam, please just go home and see. The young master's fainting spell gave the master a terrible fright. Hearing this, Bai Xinrou's expression softened slightly. She turned to Chu Ying, who was hurrying toward her.
Ying.
Mother, don't worry, mother. I will take care of my elder brother. Nothing will happen to him. Otherwise, I'll make the entire Imperial Academy of Medicine pay with their lives, Chu Ying said, holding Bai Xinrou's hand. Bai Xinrou felt relieved. With tears in her eyes, she patted Chu Ying's shoulder and turned to leave with the servant. But then she saw my mother and me feasting as if no one else were there. She stopped. Luo Yun. She looked at my mother through gritted teeth. Who's calling me? Why haven't you left yet? Didn't your son faint? Hurry home and check on him. Why are you calling me? Bai Xinrou took a deep breath. She closed her eyes before speaking again. My son was charging for the country and collapsed outside the city. He was just brought back to the palace, his life hanging by a thread. You are an elder after all. As a general's wife, how can you have no conscience at all? For my child who protects the country, you show no concern whatsoever. You even have the nerve to sit here and eat. Bai Xinrou said it all in one breath. So angry she nearly fainted. The Minister of Revenue's wife, along with those who usually fawned over Bai Xinrou, took the opportunity to criticize my mother. They crowded around Bai Xinrou trying to soothe her. Are you sure the one who collapsed outside the city and was sent to the palace is really your son, Chu Feng? Wasn't he sent to the border by His Majesty? Or is my memory failing me? Without His Majesty's orders, returning to the capital in secret. That is the capital offense of desertion. My mother stared at Bai Xinrou. Her tone was casual, but her words cut to the bone. Bai Xinrou's eyes suddenly widened. Did you see clearly? Is the one sent to the palace truly my son, Chu Feng? She turned and grabbed the eunuch by his collar. There's no mistake. The guard captain at the gate is General Chu Feng's childhood friend. He recognized General Chu at first glance. Bai Xinrou's body trembled. The next moment she actually fainted. Chu Ying hurried over to support her mother and ordered the head maid to fetch a physician immediately. And so the banquet came to an end. As we were leaving the imperial garden, I felt a gaze fixed on my back. Turning around, I caught a glimpse of Chu Ying's venomous stare. By the time my mother and I reached home, it was already mid-afternoon. I thought my father and brother would have finished eating and retired to their rooms for a nap. To my surprise, when we entered the hall, my father and brother were sitting there upright and proper. The table was laid with a full spread of steaming hot food. One look and I knew it was my father's cooking. I had a more estimate the time you'd return. I didn't expect his guest to be so spot on. I've just finished setting the table. And here you are. My father stood up with a smile, taking my mother's hand with one of his and leading me to the table with the other. The food at those banquets isn't fit for human consumption. It's either cold or hard. It can't compare to a home-cooked meal. You two must still be hungry, right? Looking at the doting concern in my father's eyes, I patted my already somewhat full stomach and silently took the chopsticks from his hand. Dad, have you and my brother really not had lunch yet? I glanced at the clean bowls and chopsticks in front of them. Haha, it's no big deal. Your brother is a grown man. Missing one meal won't kill him. My father said nonchalantly. My brother glanced at my father, and I actually saw a hint of speechlessness in that look. But when his eyes met mine, he returned to his usual serious expression. He gave me a nod, indicating that my father was right. I lowered my head and started digging in. My brother is 8 years older than me. He was the one who supervised my studies when I was little. He'd smack my palms whenever I wasn't being serious. He usually has such a cold face, so I'm still a bit afraid of him. My father, on the other hand, treats me like a precious gem. He'd be heartbroken if I even lost a single strand of hair. My mother mostly just tries to scare me, But she doesn't actually dare to do anything to me. She dotes on me too. Only my brother. He really hits me. And it really hurts. No matter how delicious my father's cooking was, I couldn't swallow more than a dozen bites. My mother was in a similar state. She put down her chopsticks and looked at the full table. A hint of regret in her eyes. If I'd known, I wouldn't have eaten so much. Just to spite that by Shinro. Ha 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 ha. If you can't eat anymore, then don't. Since my wife likes it. From now on, not just lunch. I'll take care of all 3 meals a day. My mother's face flushed at his teasing words. But when his gaze swept over my brother and me, he immediately turned serious. She gave my father a secret pinch and changed the subject to get down to business. Qinger and I went to the banquet today, and we truly witnessed 2 jokes. Those 2 sons of the Chu family, one is useless, the other a fool. It matches perfectly with the recent rumors about you and your father in the capital. These 2 things weren't your doing, were they? My mother stared at my brother and asked. Hearing this, I also looked toward my brother. Those 2 from the Chu family are just eyesores. And useless pretty boys at that. They aren't worth my personal attention. My brother said casually. It was as if he were mentioning 2 ants. The hand he used to pick up food didn't even pause, but because my mother's and my curious gazes were so intense, he gave us a helpless look, put down his chopsticks and spoke again. Chu Feng spends every night in the brothels. The little skill he learned in his youth has long been forgotten. How could he have the actual ability to kill enemies on the battlefield? He only took a sword to the shoulder. Yet he made a huge fuss about returning to the capital. He turned a minor injury into a severe one through sheer negligence. Humph. He only has his family's overindulgence to blame. They raised him to be so absurd that he'd even desert his post on the battlefield. As for Chu Jia, he's a coward who's afraid of trouble. He's the type who can't even watch a chicken being slaughtered, yet he insisted on taking my position as Vice Minister of the Court of Judicial Review, right after he took office, to save face. And to undermine my reputation, he couldn't wait to investigate the evil ghost murder case. I expected him to be frightened, but I didn't expect him to actually lose his mind. Just gave you all another joke to watch. As for the rumors in the capital, I don't know about those. You'll have to ask Dad. Having said that, my brother picked up his chopsticks and began to eat unhurriedly. My mother and I shifted our gaze to my father. My father covered his face and gave a light cough. I just couldn't stand seeing Qinger being mistreated. It just so happened that I got word from the border that useless Chu Feng had fled back to the capital overnight. So I had people spread false rumors in the capital. I wanted the Chu family to enjoy their triumph for a few days. When you're put on a pedestal only to be dropped, it hurts much more. My father felt quite vindicated after saying that. But my mother was so angry she slammed her chopsticks down. Since Chu Feng has already fled back, we could have just waited to see them become a laughingstock. But you and Gu Yuzhou and Imo, do you think I enjoy hearing people outside every day saying that you won't live long, and then I have to come home and hear the same thing? Isn't that aggravating enough? My dear, don't be angry. That wasn't my intention. It was poor judgment on my part. My father apologized immediately, trying to hug my mother. But she pushed him away. Unable to soothe her, my father looked at me. Seeing his pitiful expression, I couldn't bear to just leave him be. I coaxed my mother into letting him sit down. Seeing this, my father quickly leaned in. My dear, please let me explain slowly. Besides wanting to humiliate the Chu family, my main intention was to distinguish friend from foe. The rumors outside say our family's influence is gone, and that the Chu family is at their peak. When you went to the banquet today, with your sharp wit, you surely Must have seen clearly who was ready to kick us. While we were down, right? My father coaxed her carefully. Seeing that my mother's expression had softened a bit, he continued, "It's all my fault. I forgot about the taboos. If you're still upset, just hit me." "I promise I won't make a sound." My mother didn't reply. She kept her head down. Still angry, my father grabbed my mother's hand and tried to slap his own face with it. Startled, my mother quickly tried to pull her hand back, but she was a step too late. My father's face received a very light tap. "What are you doing? The children are still here." My mother looked at him with annoyance. "Don't be angry, my dear. Then we'll wait until we're in the bedroom, and I'll be at your mercy," my father said, acting like an old rogue. That fiery look in his eyes made my face turn red with embarrassment. My mother indignantly withdrew her hand and gave his foot a heavy stomp. However, her expression improved significantly. It seemed she wasn't angry anymore. Just as my father was about to sit down next to her, my mother slapped her hand down on the table. "I have something to ask Emor. You're blocking the way in the middle. How am I supposed to ask?" My father immediately stood to the side like a submissive wife, waiting for her to finish. "Emor, you've always loved investigating cases. That position of Vice Minister of the Court of Judicial Review was something you planned for and desired. Now that you've been dismissed, what are your plans for the future?" my mother asked. "Don't worry, mother. I have a place to go," my brother said with total indifference. Seeing my brother's confidence, my mother didn't ask further. He always has a plan. The three of us combined aren't as calculating as he is. "And what about you? Are you really not going back to the border?" My mother turned to look at my father. "Although I want you home with us. You've protected the people of that border town for over a decade. Every year you come back, you're still thinking about them. And today that useless Chu Feng actually returned. With such a blatant desertion. Won't the border fall into chaos? Aren't you worried?" After saying that, my mother seemed to get angry at herself again. "I want you to handle it, but I also don't want you to. The thought of you going there to defend the empire for that Qin Bai brat just makes me furious. But if you don't go, I'll worry again. If something really happens at the border, won't you live with lingering regret?" My mother's tone was full of mixed emotions. "My dear, there's no need to worry." My father smiled and took my mother's hand. Then he turned to look at me and my hidden concern, and patted my head. "Qinger, you don't need to worry about your father either. I already have someone guarding the border for me." My father withdrew his hand, stroked his beard, and smiled so wide the wrinkles showed at the corners of his eyes. He seemed extremely satisfied with that person. "Who?" my mother asked curiously. "The Prince of Qin Bai?" "Vigny. So it's him." My mother was a bit surprised. "If he's there, then you don't really need to go back. This is actually quite good. Qini, the name sounds familiar." I racked my brain for a while but couldn't remember. So I just gave up thinking about it. "Yunyang. Since you didn't know Chu Feng was injured and returned to the capital secretly, why were you so certain today?" When you confronted by Shinro at the banquet, I was still a bit confused. So I spoke up and asked. I originally thought my mother had pressured my father last night and gotten the news from him, but it turned out he didn't know either. Humph. Just having Bai Shinro stand in front of me is enough. Even if I'm not entirely sure of the facts, I won't let her get the upper hand. She'll never get the better of me in this lifetime. My mother sneered. Suddenly she thought of something else and immediately stood up. Oh, right. The heavens really do have eyes. I need to go out and buy some things. We're going to have a proper celebration tonight. With that, my mother left the house in her usual brisk manner. My father followed behind her, but was chased back just as they reached the door. Didn't you say your old injury was acting up? And now you dare to run outside? Do you want people to catch you and say you're deceiving the emperor? I can go in disguise. Shut up. I'm counting to 3. If you're still hovering in front of me, don't even think about entering my bedroom this month. As soon as my mother finished speaking, my father vanished. After my mother left, the courtyard fell silent. I felt a scrutinizing gaze on the back of my head. I turned around. Brother. My brother stared at me and muttered, "The Prince of Qin Bai." I looked at him in confusion. Seeing my expression, something flashed in his eyes. Why don't you just go back to your room and play? What was I supposed to do? I really wanted to shout in his ear. I've already had my coming-of-age ceremony. News spread that Chu Feng had abandoned the border people and military morale to sneak back to the capital. Almost all the military officials in court jointly petitioned against him, demanding that Qin Bai punish him severely. But somehow, Chu Ying managed to work her magic, and Qin Bai actually let the matter drop. He only ordered Chu Feng to be confined to his home for 3 months. This infuriated the military officials. They called him fatuous, and even Chu Ying was cursed as a disastrous consort. However, these were all private conversations, but because they weren't said openly, and since military men aren't known for their restraint, their words were incredibly harsh. As for the civil officials, their tongues were like sharpened arrows on a bowstring. Their petitions flooded the palace like snowflakes. Not a single word was a direct insult to the two of them, but the meaning between the lines was so full of sarcasm that Qin Bai and Chu Ying couldn't even hold their heads up. Chu Ying was mocked so much she wouldn't even leave the palace. As the emperor, Qin Bai had no escape. He could only grit his teeth and face it with a grim expression. I heard that the teacups in the imperial study had to be replaced several times a day. They were smashed to pieces shortly after being brought in. As for Chu Jia, it seemed he really had been scared out of his wits. According to the servants in their household, Chu Jia would grab anyone in the courtyard, regardless of gender, and call them father as soon as he saw them. Yet he never called his actual father that. This father business made Minister Chu cough up blood in rage. Minister Chu had him tied up and sent to the Imperial Academy of Medicine, where they said he could only recover slowly. Perhaps when he eventually snaps out of it, he'll return to normal. The capital was full of gossip about the Chu family. At first, Bai Xinro still went out to check on her shops, but later she also stayed behind closed doors. It's been nearly a month now. However, this worked out well for my mother. Without her rival around, her shops made a lot of money, and she was in a wonderful mood every day. Madam, the wife of the Minister of Revenue is here. She's outside requesting an audience. In the afternoon, while I was practicing boxing with my father in the courtyard, the butler suddenly came to report. My mother was sitting at the stone table under the tree, sipping there. She frowned at the news. The butler waited for orders. What is she doing here? She says she's here to apologize to you, madam. Apologize? Well, that's a first. The sun must be rising from the west, since Bai Xinro hasn't been out making trouble lately. I've been quite bored. Let her in. I want to see what tricks she's up to. The butler took the order and left. Shortly after, the Minister of Revenue's wife followed him in. My father had returned to the house when the butler went out, leaving me under the tree with my mother. As soon as the minister's wife entered and saw my mother, she approached with a smile so wide her eyes disappeared. It's only been a month since we last met. But you look more radiant than ever, madam. And your daughter. My, what a beautiful face. She's truly a delight to look at. She didn't just praise my mother. Seeing me there, she reached out to grab my hand. My mother praised her back but got straight to the point. Just say what you came to say. She brushed the woman's hand off me and spoke coldly. The minister's wife turned pale for a moment, but she restrained herself and quickly put on a smile again. I've offended you many times in the past. It was my fault. Please don't hold it against me. I'm here today, mainly at my husband's request. The Ministry of Revenue would like to borrow some money from you. But don't worry. The loan will be repaid after next year's taxes are collected, with interest. It's not a free favor. The minister's wife smiled, keeping her posture very humble. As the saying goes, one doesn't strike a smiling face. My mother's attitude wasn't as harsh as it was at first. Borrow money? Borrow what money? Although there are occasional wars at the border, and the treasury isn't exactly overflowing, it shouldn't be at the point of borrowing from a merchant like me. My mother asked suspiciously. You're right about that. The minister's wife looked around, and seeing no outsiders, she spoke again. His Majesty wants to expand and renovate the southern palace, so he can stay there when he goes on inspection next spring. My mother frowned. I have no money. I'm not lending any. How could you possibly have no money? Setting aside your mother's side, the shops you've opened in the capital must make a fortune. The minister's wife's tone grew urgent, and a hint of anger was visible in her expression. My mother looked at her and laughed. All the money I earn goes toward clothes and jewelry. Last time in the palace, you saw for yourself how lavishly I spend. I've never been one to save money. My mother lied without blinking. Besides, why aren't you asking Bai Shinro for money? Why come to me? When my mother said this, I realized she didn't know the latest gossip yet. A while ago, while my mother was inspecting the estates in the suburbs, Bai Shinro and the minister's wife had a falling out. Supposedly, to fit into another social circle. The minister's wife had badmouthed Bai Shinro, who happened to overhear it. That was why Bai Shinro had been staying indoors ever since. Seeing the minister's wife's face grow darker, I hurried to whisper the story into my mother's ear. My mother raised an eyebrow. When she looked at the minister's wife again, there was a look of disdain in her eyes. The minister's wife could no longer force a smile. Luo Yunjin, what's with that look? I am still the wife of a third-rank official. How can you keep treating me with such contempt? She snapped. I'm being kind by not cursing you out. I detest two-faced people the most. If the person you betrayed hadn't been Bai Shinro, I'd really have a few choice words for you. Butler, show her out. I have no money to lend you. Go find someone else. If you don't believe me, have the Minister of Revenue report to His Majesty, and let him come find me himself. After saying that, my mother pulled me back into the house. The minister's wife tried to follow, but the butler called the guards to grab her and throw her out. He's barely on the throne and already thinking of nothing but pleasure. How did I not see what kind of person he was before? If it weren't for the fact that none of the late emperor's 6 sons were worth a damn, and that he'd been betrothed to you since childhood. Your father would never have pushed him onto the throne. My mother said indignantly as she entered the room. I couldn't help but recall the time just before the late emperor passed away. Listening to the influence my father and grandfather wielded, Qin Bai's accession to the throne was incredibly smooth. The other 5 princes saw there was no hope, so they didn't even think of resisting. Without a single drop of bloodshed, Qin Bai became emperor. They each received their own fiefdoms and were granted titles of kings. It was actually one of the most peaceful succession struggles in recent dynasties. 3 days later at lunchtime, my brother still isn't back yet. My father sent a servant to the tea house my brother usually visits, but he was nowhere to be found. It wasn't until a while after we finished lunch that my brother returned with a complex expression. He sent all the maids and servants out of the room. My brother closed the door, looked at my father with a serious face and spoke. Prince Gong, Prince Ren, Prince Shuang, Prince Rui, and Prince Xian have all died suddenly. What? My father cried out in shock. The shock I felt was just as great. These 5 princes were Qin Bai's 5 half-brothers. Only yesterday I was reflecting on how they were a rare case in the royal family of princes who might die of natural causes. How could they all suddenly drop dead today? This certainly makes one wonder. All of the late emperor's brothers are dead. Even their children were not spared. By the time my brother finished speaking, his voice was tinged with a hint of sorrow. After he spoke, he looked up at my father. A friend told me that they've all been taking longevity pills this past month. These pills were created by the late emperor. They are said to prolong life. The late emperor lived nearly 10 years longer than his predecessors. Word got out somehow that the longer you take them, the longer you'll live. So they started taking them themselves and made their children take them too. Now, in less than a month, they're all gone. When the late emperor passed away, there was a box by his bed containing the pills and the formula. He passed them both to Qin Bai. After my brother finished, my father's gaze darkened significantly. Father, Qin Bai must be behind this. If he's truly this ruthless, we need to make plans early. Your troops are all at the border. They can't help us in this immediate crisis, even though you hold the tiger tally and have years of military prestige, plus the influence of our maternal family. Qin Bai wouldn't dare do anything to us openly. But it's the hidden daggers that are hard to guard against. My father nodded. He clenched his fist and turned to go to the study. But halfway there he thought of something and looked at my brother. How is Qin Yi? He's fine for now. He just got the news at the border. He's gone home to see the Prince of Zhenbei one last time. I just don't know if he took those pills. I've sent word to him. We won't know for sure until his reply arrives. My father breathed a slight sigh of relief as my brother was about to follow him out the door. His eyes suddenly caught mine. Are you scared? I shook my head. Truly my father's daughter. Why does he sound exactly like my father? Go find mother at the shop in a bit and let her know what's happening. Just keep your wits about you in your daily life. There's no need to be overly anxious. These princes have just died. Unless Qin Bai wants an immediate revolution and to be dethroned, he won't move against us anytime soon. He can't afford the consequences. Go out and have fun in the capital as usual. If someone annoys you, hit them if you want. Just like always, if there's anything you can't handle, your big brother has your back, okay? Seeing my expression, my brother suddenly gave a light chuckle. He walked over and patted my head. When that big hand rested on my head, I felt like my life was in his hands. I didn't dare move a muscle. Luckily, it was only for a moment. My brother withdrew his hand and left. I touched my chest. Besides my heart beating a bit faster, it also felt a little warm. Following my brother's instructions, I immediately went to the shop to find my mother. But I didn't expect to see Bai Xinro there. The wife of the Minister of Revenue was standing beside her. The two of them were practically glued together. Looks like they've made up again. Sister Bai is truly devoted to the country and the people. Such selfless sacrifice. She has a great sense of righteousness. Unlike some people, who are just nouveau riche money grubbers, reeking of nothing but money. The minister's wife whispered to Bai Xinro, casting a look of pure disdain at my mother. Bai Xinro was smiling, seemingly very satisfied with the minister's wife's flattery. But she kept her arm a bit distant from her. She seemed somewhat aloof. It looks like there's still some lingering resentment. I heard Bai Xinro donated half her fortune to the Ministry of Revenue. I didn't believe it at first, but now it seems to be true. I wonder what Bai Xinro is plotting. Oh, don't make me laugh. Righteousness. The governor's wife, standing next to my mother, scoffed. She's just trying to secure her daughter's position as Empress. What's there to flatter? If it weren't for Bai Xinro's donation, and her asking for nothing in return, which delighted the emperor, my daughter would have been sent to the palace for the selection today. You ruined a perfectly good consort selection with that move. Humph, you mother and daughter certainly have your ways. If you're so capable, why don't you donate money too? I'm happy to pave the way for my daughter. So what? My daughter is the only empress in the emperor's harem. There are no other concubines. If you disrespect me again, I'll have my daughter ask His Majesty to send your husband, the governor, to some godforsaken corner outside the capital to serve. Bai Xinro had probably endured too much stress this past month. One comment made her lose her usual composure. She became incredibly fragile. Oh, look at you, so full of yourself. You're just the wife of a low-ranking 5th-grade official. You have no foundation at all. Flaunting yourself in front of me just because you have a little money. Go ahead, let your daughter ask. I'm not afraid of her speaking up. I'd love to see what happens after she says it. The governor's wife wasn't afraid of Bai Xinro at all. She was so angry she reached out to pull her hair. But the governor's wife was taller than her, and stronger than her. Instead, Bai Xinro was pinned to the ground and beaten. A moment later, the two were pulled apart. Bai Xinro covered her face, pointed at the governor's wife's nose and said, "You just wait." After making her threat, she was helped out by the minister's wife. The governor's wife stayed by my mother's side. I haven't had a fight like that in ages. That felt good. Oh, I almost forgot why I came. Madam Yun, where are the new headpieces your shop got in? Bring them out for me to see. She turned to my mother. My mother told the shop assistant to bring over the 3 most expensive and solid sets. She gave them directly to the governor's wife. It seems you really don't get along with her, the governor's wife said in surprise. Anyone who makes her miserable makes me happy. Anyone who makes my mother smile makes me happy. My mother said with a smile. The governor's wife didn't refuse further. She took them and promised repeatedly as she left that the next time she saw Bai Xinro, if she didn't like the look of her, she'd give her another beating. After she had gone far away, I looked at my mother, who still had a smile on her face, and asked, "How did Bai Xinro end up so pathetic? Why can everyone just walk all over her now? Even though a governor is second rank." only one level higher than her husband. Chu Ying is still the Empress after all. Although the governor's rank isn't particularly high, her family is one of the 5 great clans. They have a deep heritage. Besides, Qin Bai brought this on himself. His mother, Lady Chu, came from a family of minor 5th rank officials. They couldn't provide him with much of a background. After he ascended the throne, he betrayed you. He lost the powerful support of your father and grandfather. Plus, he skipped the imperial selection this year. None of the daughters from the great clans entered the palace. No ministers are protecting her for the sake of self-interest. She has very few people left to rely on. If the governor's wife were to speak against the emperor, she certainly wouldn't dare. But if it's to deal with by Shinro, she's more than capable. Given Qin Bai's current situation, he couldn't do anything even if he wanted to. Just to please Chu Ying with her sweet talk, he wouldn't choose to cross a powerful established clan. My mother was analyzing the situation for me. Once she finished speaking, I took a moment to process it all. By the time I snapped out of it, my mother was already heading toward the carriage. She was getting ready to inspect the next shop. I suddenly remembered my brother's instructions, so I quickly chased after her. Once on the carriage, I quietly told my mother about the longevity pill. I thought she would be stunned for a moment, but to my surprise, she got excited immediately. Money. We need to work hard to make money. It just so happens Shinro donated half her assets to the Ministry of Revenue. He definitely doesn't have any cash on hand. I'll spend this time suppressing his shops. I might even be able to buy many of them back. Mom? Did you hear what I just told you? You didn't mishear me, did you? I looked at her in surprise. Of course not. Silly child. Qin Bai wants to move against us, playing dirty tricks behind our backs. As the saying goes, money talks. In a while, I plan to have your brother look into the underworld. I'll hire a group of martial arts masters for protection, and we'll hire any famous poison masters or divine doctors. My mother slapped her thigh. She said, I truly am the only one who can keep your father, the great general, in check. She's so bold. I suddenly felt like the ranking of schemers in my family needed an update. It used to be my brother, then dad, then mom, then me. Now I think mom and I should swap places. But hey, there's nothing wrong with making money. 2 months passed in the blink of an eye. During this time, a major piece of gossip emerged. When Chu Feng was injured and fled back to the capital, my father claimed illness and stayed home. Qin Bai appointed a new military official to the border. He didn't want to use the veterans from the court, so he chose a young official he had personally promoted. But shortly after the official arrived, he kicked the bucket. Word is he was young and impulsive. He led a small team on a sneak attack, but they were lured into a thick fog. He was beheaded on the spot. His head was sent to the city gates. It completely devastated the morale of our troops. The border city was nearly captured. Later it was Qin Yi, the Prince of Zhenbei, who took command. He launched another sneak attack. In that same fog, he led his team to a victory against the odds. He took the enemy leader's head, which greatly boosted the army's morale. From then on, Qin Yi's reputation began to grow. His abilities were described as legendary. Many people revered him as the god of war. He became an idol for everyone in the capital, from 5-year-old children to 70-year-old elders. Storytellers in every tavern and tea house were telling tales of his legendary achievements. Qin Bai actually sent another general from the court later, but they failed to make any impact. The border army had fully accepted Qin Yi as their general. The border citizens also supported him immensely. Now that the border is settled, Qin Bai issued a decree 10 days ago, summoning Qin Yi to the palace for his reward. Calculating the time, He should be arriving in the capital any day now. They say he's incredibly handsome. Standing 8 feet tall. Not only is he a brave warrior, but he's also exceptionally good-looking. For a time, all the noble ladies in the capital were discussing him. His popularity remained sky-high. I hear his name every time I go out lately. I'm sick of hearing about him. Qinger, is there anything you want lately? I have more money than I know what to do with. My mother asked me while happily sipping her tea. No, Mum. I'm going out for a bit. I waved my hands hurriedly. I headed out the door. I didn't dare let my mother buy me anything else. Ever since she acquired half of Bai Shinro's shops, she's been spending money without limit. Clothes, jewelry, and all the latest novelties in the capital. She finds every excuse to send them to my room. My room couldn't even hold it all. We had to clear out 5 or 6 empty rooms just to store all that stuff. Those clothes and jewelry. I probably wouldn't wear them once in a year. I didn't dare let my mother buy more. It's a waste. A few days ago, I went to the bookstore for a novel I'm following, but it was sold out. The shopkeeper said it would be in today. I went out specifically to buy that book. Lately, my life of just eating and sleeping has been a bit boring. Xiao, do you want some candied haws? Looking at a vendor nearby with a stick of candied haws, I asked the young girl beside me. She's one of the experts my brother hired. She's about my age. Just a few months younger than me. She's a bit shorter than I am, and has a thinner build. She looks like a young girl of 12 or 13. But she's a master of both medicine and poison, especially her ability to escape. She's famous for it in the martial arts world. She once successfully escaped the top martial arts master. My brother placed her by my side, not expecting her to fight for me, but hoping that if I'm in danger, she can whisk me away instantly. That's enough to keep me safe. Xiao shook her head. I looked at the mature expression on her cute, chubby face and tried my best to resist the urge to pinch her cheeks. I finally met a cute younger sister and wanted to satisfy my protective instinct, but she's more mature than I am. Xiao and I continued walking. The streets of the capital seemed to have many more strangers than usual. They walked slowly, with sorrowful expressions. Before I could look closer, a long, tragic horse's neigh rang out, catching my attention. I looked toward the sound and found someone had killed a horse in the street. In the middle of the road, a man in black martial arts attire was kneeling. He was shielding a frightened, crying child in his arms. How dare you block the Bai family's horse? Are you tired of living? Don't you know? Our young lady is a close friend of the Empress. Luckily, she wasn't in the carriage. Otherwise, being cut into 1,000 pieces would be too good for you. A man who looked like a servant crawled out and shouted. I looked closely at the carriage. The insignia showed it belonged to Bai Rong's family. The servant raised his whip, about to strike the man in black. But the man caught it. He didn't even seem to pull hard. Yet the servant was thrown heavily to the side. The man in black didn't look at the servant. He stood up and handed the child in his arms to an anxious woman nearby. The woman took the child and left with 1,000 thanks. The man in black turned to leave as well, but the servant, who had scrambled up, blocked him again. How bold! Do you know the status of our Bai family at court? So what if you're a noble or a general, riding recklessly in the street and nearly killing someone? According to the law, no matter who you are, you cannot escape punishment. The man in black spoke up. His voice was cold and authoritative. Even without seeing his face, just from his voice, he sounded like a noble and righteous person. Humph. Judging by your tone, you must be an outsider, right? I don't know which backwater this poor wretch crawled out of. But today your elder will teach you the laws of the capital. With that, the servant pulled a whistle from his robe and blew it. Before long, several burly men arrived. They completely surrounded the man in black. Humph! Not only did my horse not trample that child, but even if it had, no one would dare hold me accountable. The servant gave a wave of his hand. The thugs swung their blades, slashing at the man in black. The man in black seemed to be injured. I couldn't tell if he'd reopened a wound while fighting off the horse earlier. His movements were somewhat stiff. I could see he was skilled in martial arts, but he was outnumbered and overwhelmed. Under their coordinated attack, he gradually began to lose ground. Seeing this, the servant spoke up triumphantly. Look at all these people on the street. Not a single one dares to mind someone else's business. Do you know why? They know exactly how much power our Bai family holds. You're just an ignorant fool who doesn't know his place. You don't have a shred of self-awareness. The servant sneered. I couldn't stand the sight of his face anymore. So I walked over. Oh, and what kind of incredible power does this Bai family have? Why don't you tell me so I can hear it too? I walked to the side of the carriage with my arms crossed. I looked them over. My maid Xiao Xiao followed closely by my side to protect me. The servant turned around, intending to curse, but he immediately shut his mouth when he saw it was me. However, a look of mockery appeared in his eyes. Miss Yun, don't go looking for trouble. Your family isn't what it used to be. You no longer hold the emperor's favor. Our Bai family, however, is currently the emperor's favorite. If we have a public falling out, it won't look good for anyone. Listening to the servant's threats, I couldn't help but feel a bit sentimental. It seems I haven't seen action in so long that they've all forgotten my childhood reputation. They've forgotten I was the demon incarnate. Back then, because of my status as the future prince's consort, and to protect the dignity of the royal family and my own, I suppressed my nature and spent years acting like a refined lady. I really gave them too much face. Usually, no matter where I go, my mother protects me, so I never need to lift a finger. But today I'll start with this servant and give them a little trip down memory lane. I've taken a liking to him, and today I'm taking him with me. I pointed at the man in black who was still fighting the thugs. The man in black glanced at me amidst the chaos. His stance suddenly faltered for a moment. He was nearly struck by a thug's blade. Fortunately, he regained his focus in time and wasn't hurt. The servant wanted to keep arguing with me, but I had lost my patience. I'd already wasted too much time out here. If I didn't get to the bookstore soon, I was afraid the new novels would be sold out again. I picked up a whip from the ground and lashed the servant twice. Hatred suddenly flared in his eyes. He lunged forward, trying to grab me. You'd better think twice before touching me. If even a single hair on my head is harmed, your life wouldn't be enough to pay for it. The status of my father, my mother, my brother, and my grandparents. I don't need to remind you, do I? Based on my status as the daughter of the great general. Even if I whipped you to death in the street today, believe it or not, I wouldn't even let anyone collect your body. You wouldn't even have a place to be buried. The servant stopped and stared at me intently. Is there no law in your eyes? The law. Hearing him say that, I laughed. Weren't you just prattling on about the law yourself? Who knows better than you what the law is in this capital? The servant was instantly silenced. I took the whip and continued to lash him. This time fear appeared in his eyes. He no longer dared to act arrogant in front of me. It's my fault. Please stop hitting me. If you want to take him, just take him, he said while kneeling, waving for the thugs to leave. Seeing that the man in black was free, I threw the whip at the servant. Get lost. He didn't even lift his head. He grabbed the whip and scrambled away. The thugs followed closely behind him. The farce was over. The surrounding crowd quickly dispersed. I glanced at the man in black. Seeing he could still stand, I didn't bother with him and led Xiao Xiao quickly toward the bookstore. But before I could take 2 steps, a dark figure appeared in front of me. No need to thank me. I didn't look up. I just gave a dismissive wave, trying to walk around him. But he blocked me again. Didn't you just say I was yours? Take me with you. I looked up, ready to snap at him, but I froze when I saw his face. How can this man look even more fierce than my brother? His face shape was very similar to my brother's. A cold, aloof face with sharp, chiseled features. But if you looked past that icy exterior, he was actually much more handsome than my brother. If he had been born in the capital, I'm afraid my brother's title as the #1 handsome man would have to change hands. Noticing his gaze was fixed on me, I thought back to what he just said. Afraid he'd misunderstood and thought I wanted him to repay me with his body, I quickly explained. Saving you was just a small favor. You don't need to take it to heart. Just go wherever you need to go. He didn't say a word. He reached into his robe with his right hand and held an object out in front of me. I glanced at it and was shocked. Isn't this my father's favorite jade pendant? He hasn't worn it in a long time. I thought it had been lost. How did this end up in your hands? Who are you? I looked at him and asked, but I froze when I met his sharp, phoenix-like eyes. Why do these eyes look so familiar? You don't remember me? He asked with a furrowed brow. I searched through all my memories, but I still couldn't recall him. His expression tightened. The emotions on his face were hard to read. Suddenly, he lowered his head and coughed. Each cough more violent than the last. It sounded as if he were going to cough up his lungs. Are you okay? Since he had my father's personal item, he must be an old acquaintance of my father's. I asked out of concern. I'm Fine. Please take me to see your father. Thinking about the novel I hadn't bought yet, I looked at him. This man looked like he could drop dead at any moment. In the end, I took him home first. On the way to my house, he kept his head down intentionally, avoiding crowded areas. It seemed he was afraid of being recognized. Considering his mysterious origin, and for safety's sake, I didn't take him directly to my father. I sent Xiao Xiao ahead with the jade pendant. I waited with him in the main hall. I didn't expect my father to arrive so incredibly fast. His speed was comparable to how fast my mother can make him disappear. Vigny, you've finally come. But he was shocked when he saw the man's face. You're injured. Vigny, this man is the Prince of Qin Bai. While I was dazed, my father had already settled him into a guest room. Xiao Xiao was called over by my father to treat his wounds. This man's willpower is incredible. His injuries are life-threatening, and he's been hit with a rare poison, yet he was able to fight those men for so long. Anyone else would have fainted as the poison reached their heart. He held out until now before collapsing. His resolve is exceptionally strong, Xiao Xiao said after examining his injuries. It wasn't hard to hear the hint of admiration in her voice. I was a bit curious, and wanted to see how bad the injuries really were.
I peeked over.
But before I could even see the bed curtains, my father swatted me away. Men and women should maintain proper distance. Is this something a young lady like you should be looking at? My father said crossly. Xiao Xiao is even younger than me. If she can look, why can't I? Having been suddenly swatted, I said, feeling rather aggrieved. I am a girl too. Xiao Xiao. Dragging him over like that for a man to see. It's damaging. What will happen to my reputation now? My father was about to scold me. But after hearing what I said, he looked at Xiao Xiao with a bit of embarrassment. I had no other choice. I couldn't trust the doctors outside. The situation is critical right now. It was just an emergency measure. Miss, there's no need to worry. I've been learning to treat wounds since I was 5. I've seen every kind of body. In my eyes, it's all just a pile of meat. There's no difference between a person and a pig. Xiao Xiao turned back and looked at me. The emotion in his eyes was even more stagnant than my brother's usual gaze. It was like a pool of dead water. Seemed as if nothing could cause even a ripple of emotion in him. Only then did I feel relieved. I'm just a pig. There's no need to actually treat him like a pig. When my father heard Xiao Xiao say that, he was momentarily speechless. Then he asked, "Can you treat this poison?" Xiao Xiao nodded. My father's furrowed brows finally relaxed. "Tell me what you need. I'll have someone take care of it." After saying that, he kicked me out of the room and closed the door. Looking at the tightly shut door in front of me, I took a deep breath. I know Dad did it for my own good. And what I did was indeed inappropriate. But he actually slapped me. Sigh. In all my years growing up, this was the first time he ever laid a hand on me. Though my head doesn't hurt much, my heart does. I've decided I'm not giving him that waist belt I just finished making yesterday. By the time dinner rolled around, I was still a bit upset. But when my father made a whole table of my favorite dishes and coaxed me with a gentle voice, I immediately gave in like a coward. You saved Qin Bai before? You know, you saved him halfway through the meal. My father suddenly asked me. No, I didn't. If you mean saving him, I only gave a hand today. I definitely haven't before. I answered confused. I didn't understand why my father suddenly asked. I've never even met him before. How could I have saved him? Is it because it was too long ago? And you were too young at the time? Qin Bai told me that the person who saved his life as a boy was you. However, he only remembered your face. He didn't know your identity when you saved him today. I mentioned you were my daughter. He only confirmed it after seeing your face later. I shook my head. I still didn't have any recollection. He said it was at the border. I reckon it was that time when you were 10. You've only been to the border once in your life. That year, I was severely injured. I almost didn't make it. Your mother brought you and your brother to the border to see me. The situation was chaotic back then. No one was paying attention. Did you wander off somewhere on your own? And then save someone? 10 years old. I put down my chopsticks and thought about it. And I actually remembered. Back then, the army doctors said my father wouldn't survive. I didn't believe them. I remembered reading in some miscellaneous books that there was a herb that could bring back the dead and make flesh grow on bones. So I rushed up the mountain alone to find it. I was worried my mother wouldn't let me go, so I didn't tell her. Later, I saw a snowman by a tree. It was pouring rain at the time. Even though I was scared, thinking I should do a good deed for my father's sake, I dragged him into a cave. Just as I was about to leave, a pair of masked men in black were outside searching with blades. I saw they meant trouble, so I found some grass to hide the cave entrance. But I didn't expect them to search outside all night. So I was trapped all night with that snowman. He developed a high fever halfway through. I was afraid he'd die right next to me, so I watched over him anxiously. I barely slept all night. Until dawn. He slowly woke up. He asked for my name. I was afraid he was a bad guy, so I just made up a name. I didn't give him my real one. He told me his name and said I could ask him for help in the future. Oh right. I wondered why the name Qin sounded so familiar. Turns out he told me back then. But I didn't take it to heart at all. The young Qin's face was covered in blood back then. Once I helped him signal his subordinates, I ran away. Back at the main camp, I was shaken for a long time. I felt like I barely escaped with my life. I think that did happen, I said, feeling a bit guilty. I peeked cautiously at my mother. My mother was staying in my father's tent back then. I was staying alone. She didn't know. I was gone for a whole night. I didn't dare tell her then. If she knew that I'd put myself in such a dangerous situation, she probably would have twisted my ears off. Seeing my mother's expression souring, I quickly threw myself into her arms. Mom, don't be mad. It's all in the past, and I'm fine, aren't I? Since then, I've been much more careful. I don't act so impulsively anymore. It was a blessing in disguise. It helped me grow up. Besides, I'm an adult now. I've studied martial arts with Dad for years. And I have all of you protecting me. Something like that will never happen again. My mother looked down at me. She didn't explode, but her eyes gradually turned red. It's all my fault. I brought you there, but I didn't look after you properly. If anything had happened to you, for the rest of my life. When my mother started crying, it scared the three of us. Even when my father almost didn't make it back then. My mother held it together. She never cried in front of us. We quickly took turns comforting her. Even my brother said a few rare things. Soft words he'd usually be too embarrassed to say. After a long time of coaxing, my mother finally stopped. But as soon as she stopped, she pinched my ear. Though she didn't use much force. It's the absolute truth. I raised my hand and swore. Haha. Even if you have some skill now, your showy martial arts aren't enough against a real master. Don't stick your neck out in the future. Let your brother and father handle it. Do you understand? I know. I agreed repeatedly. Only then did my mother let me go. I rubbed my sore ear and started looking for the culprit. Technically, I've saved his life twice now. But he caused me to get in trouble and then just left. My father sighed and said, "He left? Weren't his injuries very serious?" I asked in surprise. Everything that needed to be said was said. He was afraid of involving us. After he woke up, he had his subordinates take him away. Xiao Xiao said the poison in him has been neutralized. The abdominal wound is also bandaged. With proper rest, his life is not in danger. My brother suddenly spoke up and asked a question. My father nodded, not quite understanding why. My brother's face darkened instantly. Seeing his expression, I remembered Xiao Xiao saying my brother had done him a favor. He was willing to protect me, also to repay that debt. At the time, I didn't quite believe it. My black-hearted brother never meddles in others' business. and he's always disliked having contact with women. I really couldn't figure it out. What kind of kindness could he have shown Xiao Xiao? Looking at him now, I think I figured something out. The old bachelor is finally in love. Haha. I pictured Xiao Xiao's face in my mind. Her expression is even colder than my brother's. My brother has a long road ahead of him. Seeing my brother remain silent after being questioned, my father stopped pressing him. He changed the subject. Madam, if you have nothing to do lately, Madam, if you're free, buy some food. Madam, stock up on more grain. My father looked at my mother with concern and said, "Has something happened?" My mother immediately sat up straight and asked. Qin gave me some news. On his way to the capital from the border, he saw many refugees. He only found out after asking around that several places are suffering from drought. Local officials are hiding it from the capital. Most people still don't know yet. After saying that, my father looked at my brother. Don't you know many talented and eccentric people? Qin said, there seems to be a plague in a small southern city. Since only a few people are infected, he isn't entirely sure. Since you're free at home anyway, go out and take a look. My brother pondered for a moment. Then he spoke up. I'll take Xiao Xiao with me. He was trained by a mysterious master. He's a master of both medicine and poison. If you take him with you, what about your sister? Who will protect her? Didn't you already give him to your sister? Qin was injured. It's definitely linked to the Qin family, since they've already made a move against her. Given our family's relationship with Qin, the days ahead won't be peaceful. Qin only goes out to wander around. With the drought and plague breaking out, it's better for her to stay safely at home. Safer that way. Brother, you're really my dear brother. Forgetting your sister as soon as you find a sweetheart. Fine, if I can't go out, I won't. I only go out to find storybooks anyway. I'll just have the servants buy them for me. That works. Treating the plague is more important. If it's true, this is a serious matter. What a joke. My brother finally fell for someone. I'm more than happy to create opportunities for him. I really want to see how a cold-hearted person like him treats the person he likes. I'll never admit that I just want to watch how my brother, who is always so calculating and flawless, falls head over heels for Xiao Xiao. Seeing this, my father didn't insist further. However, I'm becoming more and more confused. What exactly is the connection between Qin and our family? Why is it that whatever he says, my father believes without question? Even my brother doesn't doubt him. Thinking this, I asked out loud. Qin is my savior. How come I didn't know that? I glanced at my mother and brother's unsurprised faces. You all knew? And you only kept it from me? I feel like my heart is being torn to pieces today. You were young back then. Your personality wasn't settled yet. The late emperor was very suspicious of generals having ties with his brothers. So we didn't make a big fuss about Qin saving me. Only a few people know. We were afraid you couldn't keep your mouth shut, so we thought it best not to tell you. Anyway, the family didn't expect you to help repay him. Can't keep my mouth shut? Don't expect me to repay anything? Hearing my father's impression of me as a child, I'm certain he's definitely my real father. After saying that, my father seemed to be didn't expect to feel so awkward after saying it. In the end, you were the one who repaid the debt of my life. You even saved him twice. I underestimated you. We don't know if the plague is real yet, but the drought is very real. My mother had just bought a large amount of grain. In just a few days, a large number of refugees flooded in. The news of the drought was fully exposed. In the afternoon, my mother was sitting in the courtyard doing accounts. I was beside her helping with some trivial matters. Then the butler brought someone in. I had never seen him before. Manager Lu, what is it? My mother asked. She seemed very familiar with him. Madam Bai Shinro went to my pawn shop today. She wants to sell her shops. It sounds like she plans to sell them all. She asked me how soon it could be done. She's desperate for cash. I've suppressed those shops of hers until they're almost all losing money. Humph. She must have heard about the drought too. She's planning to risk everything. She wants to exchange them for cash to stock up on grain and make a comeback. If I hadn't seen your potential back then and let you manage this shop alone. I don't usually go there myself. Bai Shinro doesn't know this shop belongs to my people. Otherwise, we wouldn't have stumbled upon this news. My mother put down her pen. She spoke with a very pleased expression. Madam, what should we do now? What should we do? When Bai Shinro spoke to me, when she was selling the shops, she specifically emphasized she'd buy them back later. She told me absolutely not to sell them to anyone else. Manager Lu said with a troubled look. Just because she said not to sell, we won't? She's the one who's desperate for money now. Tell her you can take them all, but that your cash flow is also tight. Drive the price of those shops down as hard as you can, to the absolute minimum. As for not selling to others, she won't have the money anyway. You can't just pass up a profit. Now that news of the drought has reached the capital, anyone with spare cash will be thinking of hoarding grain. Other pawn shops might not have much left. Few can produce that much silver at once to take over all her shops. Even if they do, they'd rather hoard grain right now. Don't be afraid of her. The more aggressive you are with her, the better. If she sells, she sells. If not, let her find someone else. She'll definitely come crawling back in the end. My mother analyzed slowly and methodically. Manager Lu's eyes brightened as he listened. After getting his orders, he left happily. After he left, my mother called the butler Indiana, the managers of the shops where I bought grain recently. Go visit all of them again. Tell them, I drove the price too low before and made them lose a lot of money. From now on, I'll buy all grain at triple the price. Have them save most of their stock for me. And specifically instruct them, if Bai Shinro goes to them to buy grain, they must sell it to her at this triple price too. This succeeds. No matter how much grain I buy from them later, I'll give them an extra point of profit. To hurt the enemy 1,000, you lose 800. Is it worth it? Mother, is it worth spending so much effort? She'll still end up buying the grain. She can still make a profit. But you're losing so much money for nothing. Oh, you're still so naive. This grain money is a drop in the bucket for me. But for Bai Shinro, every penny must be spent where it counts. It's her last life-saving straw. Once those shops are gone and turned into grain, and her silver is gone, her family will truly be destitute. As for making a profit, it's impossible. This time I'm going to make her lose everything. My mother said with certainty. Her eye for business is indeed sharp. She never does anything she isn't sure of. Hearing my mother say this, I felt relieved. I'll just stay home quietly and watch how my mother handles Bai Shinro. Half a month later, the drought fully broke out. Refugees were everywhere at the city gates. The city could no longer hold them all. Qin Bai can no longer pretend not to see. The Minister of Revenue personally visited my mother to ask for a loan. Isn't the money Bai Shinro donated still being processed? Using it for disaster relief could hold things over for a while. Furthermore, when the late emperor was on the throne, there weren't many wars, and natural disasters were rare. There wasn't even a struggle for the succession. The people paid their taxes every year. The national treasury couldn't possibly be unable to afford even a bit of relief money. If there really is no money, then I'd have to suspect that someone has been embezzling. As soon as my mother laid her cards on the table, the minister's face changed instantly. He didn't even bother with surface-level pleasantries anymore, and simply stormed off. Naturally, my mother didn't lend the money out. Mother, if the ministry really can't afford it, are we truly not going to help? Of course not. The reason your great-grandfather was chosen as the head of the Jiangnan merchants wasn't just because of his wealth, but more importantly because he won people's hearts. Our family motto is, in prosperity, help the world. In poverty, focus on your own integrity. During the droughts and floods under the late emperor, your great-grandfather donated massive amounts of money for each one. This earned him a great reputation. Many people he helped back then have since helped you in return. Your grandmother often reminded me of the family motto. She regarded it as the golden rule, and I've kept it close to my heart. However, while I will donate this money, I absolutely will not give it to the Ministry of Revenue or to Qin Bai. Otherwise, who knows whose pockets it will end up in? My mother said sarcastically. I asked in confusion, what about Qin Yi? Soon, the court officials will jointly petition the throne to have Qin Bai select someone for disaster relief. If he truly has no money, he will dump this most troublesome task onto the person he fears the most. When that time comes, I'll just give the money directly to Qin Yi. It saves me from running around everywhere, exhausting myself to buy grain. Saves me a lot of trouble. My mother rubbed her temples and spoke. I heard that after Qin Yi went to the palace to see the emperor, he was kept there by Qin Bai. I was racking my brain wondering how he would manage to get himself out of the palace. I didn't expect it to happen like this. Lately, everyone in the house has been very busy. My father practically lives in his study. He doesn't even come out for meals. My mother is busy with the shops and the grain, coming and going every day. My brother is still in the south investigating the plague. Only I, aside from occasionally helping my mother with the shops, have nothing to do. With too much on my mind, I couldn't sleep at night. So I put on a coat and went to the garden for some fresh air. To my surprise, as soon as I stepped out, I saw a figure leaping over my wall. Quickly gave chase. Seeing that the person was about to escape the estate, I picked up a stone from the ground and threw it. I shouted loudly. The person nimbly dodged the stone I threw. The person in the nightsuit turned around and pulled down his mask. By the moonlight, I saw his face clearly. It was Qin Yi. I suddenly couldn't bring myself to scold him. The way he looks at you coldly is really intimidating. Aren't you supposed to be in the palace? Why are you at my house in the middle of the night? I asked in astonishment. To discuss some matters with your father. I thought back carefully. The direction he came from was indeed the direction of my father's study. The atmosphere became a little bit awkward. Oh, never mind then. You can go, I said, pointing toward the wall. But he didn't move. Is there something else? I asked him with my head down. Honestly, the way he looks at people is always like he's holding a knife. My eyes darted around randomly, when suddenly, I saw a very familiar white handkerchief in Qin Yi's sleeve. I took 2 steps forward and pulled it out of his sleeve. You're secretly keeping my handkerchief? A girl's personal item being held by an outsider. I felt a surge of anger. I looked up at him abruptly. At that moment, I wasn't even afraid of his eyes. It is your handkerchief. But I didn't steal it. You gave it to me.
Impossible.
How could I give such a personal item to a man? 5 years ago in that cave, you used it to help cool me down. You were in a hurry to leave and forgot to take it. 5 years ago, I examined it closely in the moonlight. The fabric was indeed different from my current ones, and the edges were slightly yellowed. Even so, you shouldn't carry it on you. If an outsider saw it, what would happen to my reputation? Actually, the handkerchief only had a cloud embroidered on it. It was a very common design. If someone found it, they wouldn't associate it with me. I just thought about how he scared me when I saved him as a child, and how I saved him again as an adult, only to be scared by his cold face again. I felt so aggrieved. It's my fault. His quick admission of guilt caught me off guard. With such a cold face, he must have a very stubborn personality. I didn't expect him to soften his tone so quickly. It suddenly made it hard for me to stay angry. Then it's fine. You can go now. I'm not giving the handkerchief back to you. I turned to go back inside. Wait, there's one more thing. This handkerchief has been with me for 5 years. In my heart, it has long been like a lucky charm. I didn't say a word. He could say whatever he wanted, but I wasn't going to give it back to him anyway. The Emperor has decided. I am going to handle the disaster relief. I leave tomorrow. This journey is fraught with danger. I don't know if I'll make it back alive. Why talk about this in the middle of the night? It makes the night feel eerie. As a breeze blew, I pulled my clothes tighter around me. If I perish out there, before I die, I might wonder if it was because I didn't have this handkerchief.
Fine.
Take it. I turned back and shoved the handkerchief into his hand, then ran into the house as fast as I could. 3 days later, Qin arrived at the most severely affected counties. Before he arrived, he sent his subordinates to the wealthier nearby cities to open the granaries and transport grain over. This barely managed to address the immediate crisis for a few days. Later, my mother's silver began to flow like snowflakes to his subordinates. They used the government's name to buy grain everywhere. The grain merchants didn't dare raise prices on them, so they quickly purchased a large amount and shipped it over. The remaining silver was distributed to the people to sustain their daily lives. In 1 month, the disaster in those counties was gradually brought under control. My mother and I had also been at the capital's gates, serving porridge for over a month. The refugees outside the city went from an endless surging crowd to only a few dozen people today. Most of them, if they can survive, are unwilling to leave their homes. Therefore, after Qin controlled the disaster, most of them chose to return home. To those willing to go back, my mother gave 10 taels of silver each, which was enough to last them until they got home. At first, my mother wasn't comfortable with me coming along, but I really couldn't stand seeing her working so hard every day, while I just stayed at home eating and sleeping. After I pleaded several times, she gave in to my wishes. As for whether Qin Bai would try to assassinate us, we had long since put that out of our minds. If he dared to act against me and my mother in this current situation, then he truly would be a foolish tyrant. Moreover, there were many martial arts experts protecting us in the shadows. Soon my mother and I stopped caring about it. Our only concern was how many refugees were left, how many pots of porridge were enough, and if the stockpiled grain was sufficient. By the time the refugees in the capital had completely dispersed, another half a month passed. By the time peace was restored to the capital, I finally understood how my mother took down Bai Shinro. Just as my mother predicted, Bai Shinro liquidated all her shops for cash and spent it all on grain. She had been hoarding grain, waiting for the price to peak before selling. But when the price soared to 5 times its original value, my mother made her move. She released a massive amount of grain onto the market, selling it at fair market value. She also donated a lot of grain to help the refugees outside the city. In an instant, many people were stuck with grain they couldn't sell. They had bought it at high prices, but now they couldn't find any buyers. Those who recognized the situation early sold off quickly, minimizing their losses. But Bai Xinro was stubborn. She'd rather let it rot in her hands than take a loss. So she kept waiting, hoping the price would rise again. But heaven didn't give her that chance. Now that the disaster has passed, grain prices are even lower than usual. You could say Bai Xinro lost everything. Luo Yunjin, you set me up. I did set you up. So what? My mother admitted it righteously. You. Bai Xinro pointed at my mother, her hand trembling with rage. I might as well tell you. The pawn shop where you sold your stores is mine. All your shops are in my hands now. How does it feel? Are you happy? Didn't you say heaven has eyes? And that those who do evil will face retribution? Well, here is your retribution. What are you so angry about now? Back when I first opened my shops in the capital, you nearly squeezed the life out of my business. Fortunately, I survived. Now it's your own poor vision and your own errors in judgment. You brought this on yourself. What does it have to do with me? I didn't make you donate money to the Ministry of Revenue. Nor did I make you sell your shops. And I certainly didn't make you hoard grain. I simply couldn't stand to see the refugees suffer. So I lent a hand. So many grain hoarders in the capital were affected by my actions. Yet none of them have come to point fingers at me. Where do you get the nerve to come here and complain? To the victor go the spoils. How many people's shops have you driven into bankruptcy in this city? Since you do the same things, don't come to me looking for sympathy. It only makes you look like a hypocrite. My mother said with contempt. Just you wait. I will make sure every member of the Yun family is ruined. You will all die horrible deaths. Bai Xinro shrieked. Ruined. Horrible deaths? My mother acted as if she'd heard a joke. She walked up to Bai Xinro, grabbed her by the collar. With what? Your husband, who's been a low-ranking official his whole life and couldn't even secure the position of Minister of Rights? Or with your family's assets that you've squandered? Or perhaps your two useless sons? As my mother finished speaking, Bai Xinro's face turned beet red with rage. I almost forgot, you have a daughter who is the Empress. But what has she done to help you so far? She even drained half of your family's wealth. Why don't you try this? Have your daughter whisper in the emperor's ear. And see if he dares to touch our Yun family. My mother pushed Bai Xinro away and wiped her hands with a handkerchief in total disgust. You? Bai Xinro pointed at my mother, unable to utter a single complete sentence. In the end, she literally spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted on the spot. When Qin Yi returned from the disaster relief, his reputation was at its peak. He already had prestige in the military, and now he had won the hearts of the people. However, after returning to the capital, he was placed under house arrest in the palace by Qin Bai again. 3 days later, as one trouble ended, another began. A plague suddenly broke out in the capital and surrounding cities. It started with a palace gate guard. His initial symptoms were chills, followed by a fever, and aches all over his body. After being examined by an imperial physician, he was diagnosed with a common cold. But after taking the medicine, not only did he not improve, he began to vomit and suffered from nonstop diarrhea. He passed away within a few days. The imperial physician who treated him, and everyone who had contact with the guard, all began to show similar symptoms. The head of the Imperial Academy of Medicine immediately realized this was no common cold, but a plague. When my father heard the news, he immediately sent a letter to my brother, To his surprise, just as the letter was sent, my brother returned. My father told him about the situation in the capital. My brother immediately confirmed that the plague in the capital was the same as the one he had encountered in a small southern town. With such a coincidental timing, appearing in the capital and surrounding cities simultaneously, I suspect someone has spread the poison from afar. However, Xiao Xiao has already developed a prescription for this plague. While I was in that southern town, I also gained experience in dealing with this type of epidemic. Don't worry. We can get it under control quickly. Move all the sick to the manors outside the city, to quarantine them and block the source of infection. Use this prescription. Take it 3 times a day. At the earliest in half a month, and at the latest in a month they will fully recover. As for these protective supplies, Mother can prepare them in advance. They are 90% effective at ensuring one doesn't get infected. Besides providing them for free to those at the manors who are caring for the sick, Mother can prepare them in advance. Mother can put them into kits to sell to the panicked officials and nobles who value their lives. My brother arrived, and my mother began following his instructions, systematically preparing the supplies. Meanwhile, the palace was in total chaos. Palace staff were being diagnosed one after another, leaving the officials in a state of panic. The surrounding cities sent petitions, begging Qin Bai to send someone to stabilize the people. The entire court was terrified. In the end, Qin Bai actually sent Qin Yi out again. This played right into my father's hands. Upon hearing this, my father told my brother to take Xiao Xiao to help Qin Yi treat the sick and save lives. There was no time to lose. Ving Yi followed my brother's methods. He had the prevention methods written down, made several copies, and sent them to officials in the cities surrounding the capital. He also gave a copy to the head of the Imperial Academy of Medicine. Then the 3 of them put on their protective gear and rode through the night to the city furthest from the capital. They began inspecting and helping the sick one by one. While the Imperial Academy handled the citizens in the capital, my mother gathered the infected and sent them to the manors outside the city. She gave the pre-prepared protective gear to the doctors who went to help, and to the caregivers. Fortunately, it was caught early, so the number of infected wasn't too high. Within 2 days, all the patients in the capital had been moved out. Even though the head of the Imperial Academy said that following this prescription would cure them within a month, the time hadn't passed yet, and since people hadn't seen the results, panic still prevailed. Many people flocked to my mother's shops to buy the epidemic prevention kits. My mother told everyone not to panic. The families of all plague patients in the capital were quarantined at the manors outside the city. To the neighbors, my mother gave each person a free prevention kit. As long as they took proper precautions, there would be no issues. But many people still insisted on buying them. My mother couldn't talk them out of it, so she stopped trying. If they had money they wanted to spend, she wouldn't stop them. The cost of one prevention kit was 5 taels of silver. So my mother sold them at cost. Because my mother didn't hike prices during the epidemic, those who had previously hoarded grain, because of the wealthy merchants who were stuck with the goods my mother sold, their attitude toward her improved significantly. They stopped whispering behind her back or criticizing her. As for the officials in the capital, those who were on good terms with my mother, she sent each of them a gift set. For the family of the governor's wife, one of the 5 great clans, my mother sent enough for every person in their household. As for the rest, those who hadn't spoken ill of our family at the 100 Flowers banquet, my mother sold the kits to them for 5 taels of silver each. But for those who had kicked us while we were down, it was 1,000 taels of silver. Take it or leave it. My mother implemented a real name registration for the prevention kits. Each person could only buy one. If you bought one for someone else, you wouldn't have one for yourself. Money or your life. It's up to you. The families of the officials who had criticized us over the past few days have been coming one after another to buy the prevention kits. They looked at my mother through gritted teeth. Yet they had to hand over the money with a smile, paying hundreds of times the market price. It was incredibly satisfying to watch. About a day later, Bai Shinro arrived with 4,000 taels in banknotes. You're different from the others. For your family, it's 10,000 taels per person. On what grounds? Isn't your daughter the Empress? Naturally, your family is more distinguished than others. Take it or leave it. Don't block my business. Bai Shinro left, cursing under her breath. The next day, she returned with 40,000 taels. She looked completely drained. When she handed over the money, her eyes were bloodshot. It looked as if she wanted to tear my mother apart. How does it feel to have nothing left? My mother asked with a smile. To afford the prevention kits. She finally gave in and sold her grain reserves. But since grain prices aren't high right now, she only made a total of 20,000 taels. I heard that for the remaining balance, she went to borrow from Chu Ying. When Chu Ying couldn't provide it, she went home and sold off everything of value in the house, including the ancestral jade heirloom. Only then did she barely scrape enough together. A week later, the Court of State Ceremonies and the Ministry of Justice investigated together. They found the source of the capital's misfortune. It was Prince Gong's former subordinates seeking revenge. They intentionally took the clothes of plague victims from a small southern town, along with their used belongings, and scattered them throughout the capital and surrounding cities. A month later, the epidemic in the capital was completely under control. Another month passed, and the surrounding cities were also stabilized. My brother, Xiao, and Qin Yi prepared to return to the capital. At dawn, I was groggily woken up by my mother. She covered my mouth and told me to stay quiet. She led me to the back gate. I was surprised to find all the maids of our household, the older servants and the grooms waiting at the door. My brother was back too. He and Xiao were on horseback. Qin Yi was there as well. He stood with my father by the carriage at the entrance. Madam, take Qinger to the manor by the lake. Everything will be fine soon. Don't worry, my father said, holding my mother's hand. At the same time, Qin Yi walked over to me. In his usually cold and sharp eyes, there was now a different kind of emotion. He spoke, his voice much gentler than usual. I looked at him with sleepy eyes. He looked at me, then suddenly reached out toward my head. I instinctively dodged. A moment later, he pulled out a small, exquisite dagger and handed it to me. I hesitated for a moment, but took it anyway. The carriage soon started moving. The figures of my father, my brother, and Qin Yi grew smaller and smaller, until they vanished. I looked away, glancing at Xiao, who had fainted in the carriage. He was supposed to go with my brother, but my brother knocked him out before leaving. I sighed to myself again. My brother's road to winning his love just got a lot longer. About an hour later, we arrived at the manor. The servants quickly cleaned the bedrooms. My mother told me not to overthink things and sent me to my room to sleep. But once I lay down, despite being exhausted on the way here, I suddenly couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying the image of my father and brother's shrinking figures until they disappeared. My heart was filled with anxiety. I stared into the distance until I eventually drifted off. When I woke up again, it was broad daylight outside. I hurried out of the room. My mother was sitting in the middle of the courtyard, staring at the gate. I don't know how long she had been sitting there. Xiao was there too. She stood by my mother's side, her eyes also fixed on the entrance. I went over to join them. Not long after I stood there was a sudden knock at the gate. My mother held back Xiao Xiao and me as we started to go, and went to open it herself. It was one of Qin Yi's subordinates. My mother let out a huge sigh of relief. I also felt like I just escaped a disaster. Qin Yi's men escorted us into the palace. My mother was taken to find my father. Xiao Xiao had someone lead her to find my brother. I was taken to the Xianjing Hall by Qin Yi's men. On the way to the hall, I got a general idea of the situation. The epidemic in the cities surrounding the capital should have ended last month along with the capitals. But the emperor, seeing Qin Yi gaining too much public support, actually ordered more poison to be spread, triggering a new wave of the epidemic. He wanted to use this to frame and punish Qin Yi. Such a disregard for the people, acting only for his own interests, enraged my brother and Qin Yi. The two of them discussed it, and both felt the time had come. They were in total agreement. They decided to revolt. As for my father, he was basically forced into it. But he must have made preparations beforehand. Otherwise, they wouldn't have entered the palace so quickly. I was led into the Xianjing Hall, but I froze when I saw the scene inside. In the center of the hall, a woman was prostrate at his feet. It was Chu Ying. Prince of the North, Ying has admired you for so long. Please don't kill me. Whatever you want me to do, I will do it. Chu Ying was on the verge of tears. She reached out to grab Qin Yi's robes, but he stepped aside. I can make you do anything? Anything at all? Qin Yi asked indifferently, his gaze as cold as ice. Yes, 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 Chu Ying said, as if clutching at a final straw.
Fine.
Go kill Qin Bai, and I'll let you live. Kill the emperor? A life for a life. If you want to live, you naturally have to help me kill someone, Qin Yi said coldly. Chu Ying looked at his stern features. After a long silence, she whispered a single word. Okay. But since I am doing such a great task for you, once it is done, and you ascend the throne, could you leave a place for me in your harem? Qin Yi looked down at her, and suddenly laughed. The people around Qin Bai really are the same kind of trash as he is. As he spoke, Qin Bai was brought in by two men, dressed as imperial guards. He stared at Chu Ying, his eyes blood red, as if he wanted to devour her alive. When Chu Ying saw him, her whole body began to tremble. Qin Yi waved his hand. The guards released Qin Bai. He immediately lunged toward Chu Ying. Terrified, Chu Ying scrambled back, trying to hide behind Qin Yi. But Qin Yi had already stepped away, standing by the dragon throne in the hall. Chu Ying began to speak, her voice trembling with sobs. But before she could finish, Qin Bai had already walked over and was slamming his head against the floor. After a few moments, Chu Ying stopped breathing. Having vented his rage, Qin Bai slumped back onto the ground, exhausted. Perhaps knowing his life would end here today. His face was as pale as death. But in the next moment, his eyes accidentally caught sight of me standing at the door. They instantly lit up.
Kingar, Kingar.
You're here. Are you here to save me? I knew you were the best to me. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have been seduced by Chu Ying. I shouldn't have married her. I should have married you. With your father and grandfather's support, I would never have fallen to this state. Seeing me, Qin Bai looked like a madman. He suddenly lunged up, trying to grab me. Stop him!
Vinyi shouted.
Qin Bai was thrown to the ground by 2 guards and pinned down firmly. Who allowed you to bring her here now? Qin walked quickly to my side, asking sternly. I brought her here. Qin Yi's subordinate immediately knelt. Forgive me, Your Highness. I thought you wanted to see Miss Yun right away, so I was a bit too eager. I misjudged the timing. Go receive 10 lashes tomorrow. Yes, sir. The subordinate stood up and stepped aside, leaving me and Qin Yi staring at each other. Stay behind me and don't run off, he said, looking into my eyes seriously. I nodded instinctively. Qin Yi led me into the hall. The right side of Qin Bai's face was pressed against the floor. Seeing us enter together, his eyes looked like they were about to pop out from rage. You too. Yun Qing, how dare you? He roared. The next second, Qin Yi kicked him square in the chest. His back slammed into a pillar, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. If you don't know how to speak, you can lose your tongue. Qin Bai curled up on the floor, clutching his chest. He opened his mouth, but didn't dare utter another word. Qin Yi glanced at him with disdain, then turned to ask his subordinate, Where is Chan Xian? Empress Dowager Chan is being held in the back. Should we bring her here? Bring her in. Empress Dowager Chan entered with a panicked expression. Upon seeing Qin Bai lying in the corner of the hall, she screamed and rushed over. My son! My son! Don't scare your mother. Seeing Qin Bai open his eyes, she finally breathed a sigh of relief. Qin Yi, my buyer, is the emperor. If you dare touch him, you will be reviled by all the people. Empress Dowager Chan turned to look at Qin Yi, speaking coldly. Rest assured, the only one who will be reviled is him. With that, Qin Yi threw 2 daggers in front of them. I am a generous man. You killed my father, so a life for a life will suffice. I won't kill both of you. Discuss it amongst yourselves. Who gets to walk out of this door today? You want us to kill each other? In your dreams. Empress Dowager Chan pointed at Qin Yi and shouted. I'm only giving you this one chance. I'll count to 3. If you still can't decide, you can go to hell together. 3. Kill me if you want. Why all this nonsense? My son would never kill me. Humph, we will never do as you wish. Before Empress Dowager Chan could finish her sentence, Qin Bai stabbed her right in the heart. She turned and looked at Qin Bai in disbelief. Qin Yi suddenly turned around, blocking my view. The next second, I felt a warm, large hand covering my eyes. Don't look. What kind of scenes haven't I seen? Why would I be afraid of this? Back then, the way he bled was much scarier than Empress Dowager Chan. I pulled his hand away. Qin Yi looked at me, a flash of regret in his eyes. I really shouldn't have let you stay. You were the one who let me stay. And now you're the one who wants me to leave. Men, why are you so fickle? Mother, I'm sorry. You're already old, but I still have many years to live. Just consider this as helping me one last time. Qin Bai's voice drifted over. I looked over. He didn't dare look Empress Dowager Chan in the eye. his voice trembling as he spoke. Tears streamed from the corners of her eyes. Empress Dowager Chan slumped to the ground, dying with her eyes wide open. I truly underestimated your cruelty. I thought that killing your brothers and uncles was the extent of it. I didn't expect family to mean so little to you. That you could even kill your own mother. Qin spoke up. Didn't you force me to do this? Qin Bai spoke frantically. He looked at Qin warily. You won't go back on your word and refuse to let me go, right? So many people in this hall saw it. If you break your promise, how will you command respect in the future? I don't need you to teach me. Qin looked at him with disgust. Don't worry, I definitely won't take your life. Not only that, I will take good care of you for the rest of your life. Spread the word. The emperor, knowing his sins are heavy, has voluntarily abdicated the throne to me. Soon, he will personally write a decree of self-reproach to the people. Empress Dowager Chan passed away due to illness. The emperor is so grief-stricken that he wishes to follow her. Hearing this, Qin Bai looked at Qin, his eyes nearly bursting with rage. How can you be so wicked? As he spoke, he grabbed the dagger to lung at Qin, but was immediately pinned down by the guards. Break one of his legs. Throw him into the imperial tombs to keep watch. We can't let him die. Don't make him do any labor. Just make him kneel before his mother's tablet and repent every day. Yes, sir. Qin Bai was dragged away. Before leaving the hall, his curses echoed incessantly. 3 days later, Qin ascended the throne. The news that Qin Bai spread the plague for his own selfish gain was made public. He was despised by all the officials, whether they were pressured by Qin Yi's military might or truly looked down on Qin Bai. Not a single civil official spoke up for him. They directly recognized Qin Yi's status as the new emperor. Half of the military generals admired my father, and the other half admired Qin Yi, with my father supporting Qin Yi's rise. Naturally, no one said a word against it. Half a month after Qin Yi's coronation, he did something major. He strictly investigated corrupt officials, imprisoning a group led by the Minister of Revenue and the Bai family. They were thrown into jail. The amount of silver confiscated made even my mother take notice. One can imagine how severe the corruption was. The main culprits, like the Minister of Revenue, were sentenced to execution. Other involved family members were exiled and barred from official positions for 3 generations. Bai Xinrou's family did not escape the sentence of exile. With this, the dust finally settled. My mother has been so happy at home lately that she gives out rewards to the servants 3 times a day. Even the shop assistants and managers in the capital all received a share. I don't know what happened between my brother and Xiao Xiao, but their relationship has progressed rapidly lately. It looks like good news is approaching, with no one left in the capital to oppose her. My mother got bored. One day, she actually dragged me over to ask if I had a sweetheart. Mom, didn't you say you'd take care of me for life? Are you tired of me being at home so soon? I asked, clutching my heart as if wounded. No. Look, that brat Qin Bai is no longer the emperor. And no one will gossip about your broken engagement anymore. I was thinking if you like someone, just go date them. It doesn't matter if you get married or not. Anyway, your brother is about to settle down. It's just that your brother's romance went too fast. I didn't get to see any drama at all. And just like that, he won his wife over. Mom, I'm counting on you now. So this is where the excitement is. I didn't see it, so I tried to find it on myself. My mother is full of maternal love. Well, she has some, just not much. Later, when my mother saw me at home, she kicked me out of the house. She said, "How can you find an opportunity staying at home?" A lantern festival was soon to be held in Jinzhong. Right after we finished dinner, my mother chased me out. I wandered around aimlessly with my maid, eating and drinking. I saw people lighting sky lanterns by the lake. Curious, I ran over, wanting to join in the fun. I'd never released a sky lantern before, but I didn't expect that when I got there I'd see a familiar face. Qin was there too. He looked up at the lanterns in the sky, his face devoid of emotion, but his whole being seemed to be surrounded by a deep sense of sorrow. I unconsciously walked closer to him. What a coincidence. He caught a glimpse of me from the corner of his eye. He turned around and smiled. "Yes," I answered softly. Since our last meeting in the Great Hall, I hadn't seen him for nearly a month. Seeing him again felt like a lifetime had passed. Under his gaze, my hands suddenly felt awkward, and I didn't know where to put them. "I didn't expect you to still carry the dagger I gave you." Following Qin's gaze, I looked down at the dagger tucked into my waist. This dagger is more comfortable to use than any I've had before. I've gotten into the habit of carrying it whenever I go out. "The one you gave me is very useful." I praised him sincerely. He looked at me, and suddenly his smile grew even brighter. Captivated by his smile, I lost myself for a moment. By the time I snapped out of it, I felt like slapping myself. I'm old enough now, yet I still can't resist the handsome face. You're here to light a lantern, right? I still have things to do. My face felt a bit hot. I awkwardly tried to find an excuse to leave. But before I could finish, Qin interrupted me. "I'm here to light one for my father. My mother passed away early. I was raised alone by my father. Now that he has left me in this world, I no longer have a single relative." I wonder if it was because I mentioned the lanterns, but I had touched a sore spot. He suddenly spoke with melancholy. The grief on his face made me feel quite guilty. Before I could respond, he took 2 steps closer to me. Only then did I smell the faint scent of wine on him. He had been drinking. Qin stood by my side, looking at a street vendor selling candied haws nearby. When my father was alive, he often bought me candied haws. I was already grown up then. I didn't like them, so I'd usually take a bite and put them down. I'm afraid that even if I want them now, no one will buy them for me. He looked in that direction with a desolate smile. It made me feel even more uneasy, thinking I had stirred up his grief again. I walked quickly toward the vendor. I threw back a remark. "Stay right here and don't move. I'll go buy them for you." A moment later I ran back and handed the candied haws to him. Actually, I haven't finished what I was saying. He looked at me, the emotion in his eyes growing more intense. When my father was alive, he told me that besides him, whoever is the second person to buy me candied haws, I should marry her and bring her home as his daughter-in-law. He changed the subject so fast, I almost dropped the candied haws in shock. As the candied haws tilted in my hand, Qin took them from me. He brought them to his mouth and took a bite. "Are you willing to be my empress?" Qin stared at me, his gaze burning with passion. Terrified, I turned and ran. My head was still spinning when I got home. I didn't know how things had suddenly escalated to the point of marriage. At dawn the next day, my mother hauled me out from under the covers. She said Qin had come to propose. I was stunned for about an hour. After Qin left our house, my mother called me into her bedroom. She and my father began to interrogate me.
Fine.
I told you to go out every day and look to see if there was anyone you liked. Why didn't you go? Turns out you already had someone in your heart. I raised you and your father all these years. Didn't I just want to enjoy some juicy gossip? Every single one of you settled your life's big events without a word. You really don't know how to be considerate of your mother. My mother was questioning me, but her words were getting more and more off track. I explained, feeling like I wanted to cry but had no tears. Nothing was really going on between Qin and me before. My mother didn't believe me at all. She said, when I asked your brother about him and Xiao Xiao before, he also said they had no relationship. Now your brother wishes he could take a rope and tie himself to Xiao Xiao's side every day, no matter how far you two have progressed. I do not agree to this marriage right now. My mother slapped the table and spoke. Why? My father asked impatiently. Qin is 5 years older than her. He's too old, my mother said with disdain. My father suddenly went silent. After a while, he replied to my mother aggrievedly. I'm 9 years older than you. Have you been looking down on me for being old too? I'm talking about Qing's business right now. Don't go looking for trouble with me. My mother warned my father. For the first time, my father actually stood his ground against her. You said it yourself, it's Qing's business. Ask her what she thinks. You can't just ruin Qing's whole life just for the sake of your own ideas, can you? My mother habitually wanted to argue back, but after thinking for a moment, she looked at me. What do you think of this marriage? How should I know what to think? Was I supposed to say that Qin insisted on marrying me just because of a stick of candied haws and his father's words? Don't I want to save some face? Madam, there's a guard at the door. He says the emperor sent a letter for the young lady. Should we take it? Just as I was thinking about how to answer, a maid from my mother's courtyard suddenly stood at the door to report. Take it. Why wouldn't we? The maid got the confirmation and went out. My mother turned to look at me. Sending love letters already? And you still say there's nothing? It can't be a love letter, I said firmly. I don't believe it. When it's brought in, I'll let you see for yourself. He must have calmed down and regretted it after the proposal. He probably felt he shouldn't settle his life so casually. He's sending a letter now to tell me not to agree, I said hurriedly. My mother observed me for a while. I looked at her with eyes full of sincerity. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. She slowly spat out those words. My chest suddenly felt tight, and I felt quite uncomfortable. Then just wait and see. Soon the maid came in with the letter. I quickly tore it open in front of my parents. See? It's definitely not. What is this? I looked at the line of flamboyant calligraphy in the letter. My vision went dark. A sudden joy upon first meeting, and a heart that still flutters after a long time. My mother read it out word by word. She gave me a sidelong glance. The evidence is conclusive. And you still want to lie to me? In the end, this marriage actually happened. The reason was that when I opened my mouth to refuse, I found it very hard to say the words. In my mind, I kept seeing Qin as I saw him that night. My handkerchief was twisted in my hands. I thought of the look in his eyes at dawn the day of the palace coup. Then I remembered the feeling in the great hall, when he covered my eyes. Even the dagger at my waist gave me no peace. Finally, it all turned into that image by the lake during the festival. His lonely, sorrowful silhouette. A desolation that felt as if he were the only person left in the world. The next day, Qin issued an imperial decree. He named me his Empress. The decree also stated that from that day forward, no other concubines would ever enter the palace. In an instant, many in the court were outraged. They had all hoped to send their own daughters into the palace. But that same day, Qin made every official who protested stay behind after the morning session and stand outside the imperial study all day long. He gave them no food, and not even a single drop of water. After that, whenever anyone tried to protest, they were given the same treatment. Gradually, no one dared to speak up anymore. I set the wedding date for 3 months later. To be honest, I was still a bit nervous. I wanted to use that time to properly mentally prepare myself. The night before the wedding, Xiao Xiao came to see me. I already considered her my sister-in-law, so I shared all my private thoughts with her. When Xiao Xiao heard me describe what happened at the Lantern Festival, her expression suddenly became quite complicated. It was as if she had just realized something. "What's wrong?" I asked her, confused. "A man acts a little tipsy. Just to play you for a fool," she said through gritted teeth. I chewed over her words for a moment. After a while, it finally clicked. Qin, he played me. Just as I was wondering if it was too late to call off the wedding, Xiao Xiao suddenly stood up. "Where are you going?" "I have something to settle with your brother. I'll come back to see you later." Seeing the fury on Xiao Xiao's face, it dawned on me. My brother played you before too, didn't he? Xiao Xiao gave a cold laugh. She didn't say a word, but pulled a silver needle from her waist and walked out with a frosty expression. Right after she left, my mother came in. "Is she done talking? Come, let mother teach you some real skills." My mother sat down beside me and tossed me a few small booklets. I thought they were just picture books. But when I flipped one open, I was so startled I immediately dropped it. It was actually... "Mom, why are you showing me this?" This is what every mother teaches her daughter before she weds. I felt my face burning up. "Your mother was taught the same way by your grandmother back then." My mother shoved the books back into my hands and began to explain everything in detail. I was so embarrassed I wanted to bury my head under the covers. On the wedding night, Qin walked in. He lifted the red veil from my head. The red of the robes was vibrant. The way he looked in his wedding attire was even more stunning than him in his moon-white robes that day. But as he drew closer, and I caught the faint scent of wine on him, I suddenly remembered the Lantern Festival. My head cleared instantly. "Stop right there." I took the rod from his hand and held him back with it. "Why is my wife angry? I actually drank quite a bit." Qin's face was slightly flushed. He tilted his head and looked at me. The usual coldness in his eyes was completely gone, replaced by a tenderness that seemed to embrace everything. I shook my head, telling myself not to be charmed. "Tell me, back at the Lantern Festival, were you playing me? You used my guilt and my sympathy just so I couldn't refuse you." Qin's eyes flickered. He smiled. "Smart. My wife is so smart." I was so stupid. That's it. I'm actually angry now. "Get out. I'm sleeping alone tonight." I turned my face away, refusing to look at him. But Qin didn't leave. He snatched the rod from my hand and pressed his whole body down against me. "What are you doing?" I pushed him away, fuming. Qin grabbed both of my hands. "If I weren't in your heart, how could I have ever gotten this close to you?" He whispered softly against my neck. I wanted to argue, but I couldn't. But I was still fuming inside and didn't want to look at him. I tried to struggle and push him away again, but he buried his head down. His warm breath brushed against my neck, and the last string of my resolve snapped. I couldn't care about being angry anymore. But half an hour passed, and he still didn't know what he was doing. Are you incompetent? I gradually calmed down, and my brain started working again, feeling a bit of spite. I grew bold and started speaking recklessly. I spoke with mock sympathy. Qing. Face instantly darkened. He leaned down over me again. But in the end, it only happened because I slowly guided him through it. By the second half of the night, I began to regret it. When I saw the sky outside starting to turn gray, I completely broke down. If it were possible, I would have gone back to last night and knocked myself unconscious. So what if he didn't know how? Why on earth did I have to teach him?